We finished with Jesus last week, speaking to the religious leader and their rejection of Jesus. And it was because they could not or would not believe that he was the Messiah, the deliverer of Israel. And because of that, they would lose out. And so they knew the Old Testament, but for some reason they just didn't believe what even the prophets had said. So Jesus is still at the temple, and now he's going to, your Bibles probably say the parable of the wedding feast. I actually named this the cost of rejection because that's what it's really about. So let me read and then we'll pray. Starting in verse 1, as we continue on, it says, Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. And he sent out his slaves to call those who had been invited to the wedding feast, and they were unwilling to come. Again he sent out other slaves, saying, tell those who have been invited, behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatted livestock are all butchered and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they paid no attention and went their way, one to his own farm, another to his business, and the rest seized his slaves and mistreated them and killed them. But the king was enraged, and he sent his armies and destroyed those murderers and set their city on fire. Then he said to the slaves, the wedding is ready, but those who were invited are not worthy. Go therefore to the main highways, and as many as you find there, invite to the wedding feast. Those slaves went out into the streets and gathered together all they found, both evil and good. And the wedding hall was filled with dinner guests. But when the king came to look over the dinner guests, he saw a man there who was not dressed in wedding clothes. And he said to him, friend, how did you come in here without wedding clothes? And the man was speechless. Then the king said to the servants, bind him hand and foot and throw him into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. Father, we do come before you. We offer up this time up to you, Lord. I pray for your blessing this morning, Lord. I pray that you would speak to us and guide us through the Holy Spirit. Help us to understand your word. Help us to know you and love you more. Father, we just pray for your blessing as you would give us interpretation, as you would give us an understanding of all that you desire for us to know this morning. May you watch over all that are here, Lord, any ailments, any needs. May you provide for each person, Lord. May you touch the children upstairs and help them and guide them, Lord, and the teachers. So we thank you for today, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. So we see here that in verse 1, he first says, and Jesus answered and spoke to them again by parables. And then he said, so what is a parable? A parable is an earthly story to help understand a spiritual truth. So when you think of a parable, parables help us understand what Jesus is trying to tell us of something heavenly or spiritual. And so it helps us understand. That's what a parable's for. And he's been speaking in parables to the religious leaders. And so now he talks to them about heaven. He says the kingdom of heaven is like, okay? It's not what it is, but it's like. There's a comparison on what the kingdom of heaven is like. And he said it's like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son. So this parable speaks about the king, which is God, and then the son, which is, of course, Jesus, and the guest will be Israel. And so the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son. The marriage invitation will be given out to Israel. It always has been. And he says, and he sent out his servants to call those who were invited. Again, that's Israel. To the wedding, and they were not willing to come. This is what's interesting, is that here Israel for roughly 4,000 years had been understanding the things of the Lord. They were chosen by the Lord to be his special people. They were given dietary laws and the thing of circumcision and all these things that would reveal who they are as God's chosen people. They were to be different than the rest of the world. They were not to have foreign gods. They were to worship the one true God. And then the Bible speaks about the Messiah coming, and all these things they should have known, and yet when it came time for the Lord to come, they did not want to come. It says they were not willing to come. Not that they couldn't come, they just weren't willing to come. And that's kind of like it is today in our world as we present Jesus the Messiah and who he is, and yet people are not willing to come to him. People don't want to listen to you. You might share about Jesus at work or within your family or within your communities, and there are many people who will not listen to you. You know, it's like 1 or 2 might listen to you out of 10. The other 8, they just don't want nothing to do with Jesus, and so they're not willing to come to him. And so weddings in this culture are different than ours today. Ours today, the new thing, well, probably not so new anymore, but it's used. What's new today is they send a card out and it says, save the date. Right? You get those cards. Save the date. They want you to plan ahead for an event that's going to take place. You guys have all gotten that, right? Jewish weddings were not like that. Once the agreement was made for a bride and a groom to get married, typically the bride had a year to prepare, and she had to be ready during that time all the time, because the groom decided when he was going to come. He didn't tell no one knew the date. She had to be ready. When he decided today's the day we're going to get married, he would send his forerunner who would go tell him the groom's on his way, tonight's the wedding. And that was it. Everything had to be prepared beforehand. And so this is what's happening here. Jesus, the Father, is preparing a wedding. And he's invited the guests, which is Israel, because Jesus is the groom. He is the Lamb of God. And so these people were not willing to come to this wedding. It's a royal wedding because we're talking about a king here. And so this parable speaks about those who were invited first, but who also rejected Jesus because they were not willing. Again, he sent out other servants, saying, tell those who are invited, the Israel, see, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen, my fatted calf are killed, and all things are ready. Come to the wedding. Everything's done. It's all prepared. Why aren't you guys going to show up? So, the servants come back and they're telling the king, people are too busy. They don't want to come for this. And he says, well, go back and tell them I've already got everything ready. Dinner's on me. I've killed the animal. Everything's cooked. Everything's all ready to go. And tell them to come to my wedding. And he's pleading with his guests, with his Jewish followers, to come to this wedding. But they made light of it. That means they were careless or they didn't regard it. It wasn't necessary for them. They didn't want to do this. So they made light of it. And they went their ways, one to his own farm and another to his business. In other words, they're saying, we don't have time, we're too busy for this. This is what happens even today in our culture. Driving through from my house to here, I always go by the sports park. And I always see what I have called for 25 years, the rotation of the gods. How many of you know what that is? The rotation of the gods. The rotation of the god is during summer they're playing baseball and softball, and then it turns into football, and then it turns into basketball, and then it turns into soccer, and then it turns, it's just the rotation of the gods. It's from one event to the next, all the rotation of the gods, and they worship. And this morning I saw Boring was having their marathon run this morning. And I saw the people at each corner that would to give direction. A lot of kids, by the way. A lot of kids, kids, I'm talking about 14, 15, 16 years old, standing there, showing the way for these runners to go. And I was driving, I said, wow, Lord, all those people ought to be in church. And they can get up early to go sit on a corner to give people direction while these other people run. Now, my whole life I was a runner since I was a kid. When you grow up in the neighborhood I do, you learn to run from the cops really fast. And so I ran a lot, but I never ran from the cops, just messing with you. But I was a runner. I used to love to run. I ran as a kid. Our whole neighborhood, a bunch of us guys would run. I was in the track team, running the 440, ran in the Marine Corps. They make you run, but I loved to run in the Marine Corps. I loved running, so it was nothing. When I got out, I continued to run, and then I got into drugs, and then I ran from the cops. And then later when I think the Lord saved me, I got back into running. And then before Diane and I were married, I used to run from my house to her house about 1.5 miles, pick her up, and then we would run 3 miles, and then I'd run back home. So she ran 3, I would run about 6 miles. Sometimes we'd run to the beach and back, 7 miles to the beach and back. And we would just run all over. We used to ride bikes over, and we just stayed busy. So I understand running, and when I saw those people running, I couldn't think, man, I get it, but such a waste. I saw this old guy. He must have been 80, and he was trying to run, and he was he was dying. And I remember thinking, wow, all that pain on a Sunday for nothing when they ought to be in church. And you guys have heard me say this for years. I don't know why sporting events don't happen on Saturdays. Why is it always Sunday? Why is the day we're supposed to be worshiping God that this happened? And so they were not willing to come. They had other things. He says here, some of them, they said, you know what? We can't come. We're not willing to come. Again, he sent out other servants saying, tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared everything. Everything's ready. And the things already come to the wedding, and they made light of it and went their way, one to his own farm and another to his own business. So they were doing what they wanted to do for their own thing. And these are all temporal things. Luke actually tells us in chapter 14 that one had just gotten married, another had purchased 5 oxen, and another had bought some land, and they all said why they couldn't come. The one that said got married, well, I just got married and I can't really come. The other one, I just bought some land and I need to go examine it. And the other one is, I bought these 5 oxen and I need to check them out. Now, all this you would do before you purchase. You don't buy oxen without seeing them. You don't buy land without seeing them. And if you're already married, you're married already. And yet they had these excuses of why they couldn't come. And that's like people today. They give you an excuse why they can't come to church. I mean, how many of you made excuses before you came to church? I made all kinds of excuses why I couldn't come to church. Every time somebody invited me, there was always a reason why I couldn't come. There's no difference here. Israel had the same excuses, or we have the same excuses that Israel had back in their day. Verse 6, he says, and the rest seized his servants, treated them spitefully, and killed them. Who did they kill? They killed God's prophets is who they killed. God's prophets were the ones that were proclaiming the message of the Messiah and him coming and the purpose of him coming and repenting and turning from our sins. And the Jewish people would not believe it. Acts chapter 7 verse 52, it tells us, which of the prophets did your fathers not persecute? And they killed those who foretold the coming of the just one, that's Messiah Jesus, of whom you now have become the betrayers and murderers. So we know that they killed the prophets. They didn't like the message that was given to them. And so they killed them. And then in verse 7 he says, but when the king heard about it, he was furious. And he sent out his armies destroyed those murderers and burned up their cities. Many believe this is a reference to the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD when the Romans came under Titus and tore down the city of Jerusalem and the temple and the wall and just destroyed everything during that 70 AD as sort of the punishment for their rejection of Jesus Christ. And so the king is upset that the very ones he had on his invitation list, and they knew about it, okay? It's not like they didn't know about it. They just didn't know the specific date. But they knew about it, but yet they rejected him. And that's how many people are today. And so often we don't like the messenger because we don't like what the messenger's message is. We don't like that they're telling us we're sinners and we need to repent. We don't like that they point out what's going on with us and that we need Jesus, and so we reject those messengers. We don't kill them today, but sometimes in our heart we might, because we don't like what they're saying. No one likes to be pointed out their faults or their sins and their conduct. None of us like that. That's why people rebel, because people don't like the finger pointed at them. And yet the Holy Spirit's job is exactly that. It's to point out who we are and to reveal our sin so we could repent. The law itself was given to reveal sin in a person's life. That's why no one could keep the law, because the law pointed out what man is internally, that he's a sinner by nature. And so they kill the prophets. But when the king heard it, he was furious and sent out his armies to destroy those murderers and burn up their city. Then he said to his servants, "The wedding is ready, but those who were invited are not worthy." In other words, they're not deserving to be there. It's an honor to be invited to a wedding. He said, but those who don't want to come, you know what? They're not even worthy to come. They don't deserve to come, but I've invited them. Therefore, go into the highways, and as many as you find, invite to the wedding, he says. So now he changes it, right? He says, okay, they don't want to come. And speaking of the Jews, they reject who my son is, and they don't want to come to the wedding that I've already prepared. Then you go out and get the Gentiles. That's us. That's us. So at this point, he says, we're going to change the wedding list, and we're going to invite those who weren't invited in the first place. But you're second choice, but you're still first best. You're on the wedding list now, you and I. And so his disciples go out and they invite those who are out there because we are now invited. What I wanted to point out here was that the servants are to go out and invite people. Now we know that's who we are. We are servants of the Lord Most High. Our responsibility as born-again Christians is to continue to go out and invite the people to the wedding. Matthew 28, the Great Commission, it tells us in verse 19 and 20, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." He says, go out therefore and make disciples of all nations. Go share with everyone. Invite the people. Tell the people about Jesus the Messiah. How do we do that? Several ways. One is we live the gospel. You live the gospel. If you are born again, which is the first key, you can't really live the gospel unless you're born again. It's impossible. You could humanly, by human effort, present yourself as a Christian. You could do good things. You could give charity to different organizations. You could help the less fortunate. You could go to food banks and provide food, or to homeless shelters and donate stuff there, or feed the hungry. There's a lot of things we could do to look Christian, to look like we made a change outwardly. But the truth is, it has to come from the inward part, because the Lord judges the heart from within. And to be born again is to receive Jesus Christ into our lives and to become a new person. Once I am born again, then I would have the Lord's heart and desire in me for the lost. Now I'm no longer going to judge the lost, but I'm going to have compassion for the lost. Why? Because I too was once lost. And the same compassion that was shown to me will now be shown to others. And so I have to be born again. But when I'm born again, one of the cool things that happen is that I have this desire to want to share with others about Jesus Christ because of what He's done in my life or in your life. Another way to share is to actually speak to someone about the Lord Jesus Christ and to share maybe your testimony or some event in your life that God has done, or maybe what He spared you from. How many people are here because you had a fear because of something that happened to you, an overdose, an automobile accident, some tragedy? A few of us, right? Something drastic said, whoa, what's something, you know what, that my life was just spared. You and I, we are on borrowed time. If we would have died whenever that event took place and you're still alive, God has you alive for a specific reason. And you and I are on borrowed time. And that borrowed time tells us we are under His grace every single day that we remain alive. Because we should have been dead. And when you think of that and what He's done for you, now He wants to use you to influence other people, to bring other people to Him because of what He's done for you. See, we can share those things. We can share the accident. We can share the almost, overdosing on drugs or a robbery or whatever it might have been. We can share that with someone. We can share that we were in alcohol, that we lived a lifestyle not pleasing to the Lord. We can just share that, you know what, I didn't have the major troubles that people have. I just didn't know God. I didn't want nothing to do with them. My life was great. I made lots of money. We can share whatever it is that the Lord revealed to us of what kept us from Him. We can share why we were so busy and not wanting a relationship with Him. Well, we can share these things, but the point is He wants us to go out and share this. That's why He says in verse 8, He said to His servants, the disciples here, the wedding is ready, but those who are invited, they're not worthy. Therefore, go into the highways, that's outside, and as many as you find, invite to this wedding. Go tell people, He says. So some servants went out into the highways and gathered together all they found. Notice who? Both good and bad. And that's the way people are. Some people are good, some people are bad. And the wedding hall was filled with guests, and that's exactly what they did. They went out to the lost Gentiles of the world. It didn't matter where they were at, who they were, or what they were doing. He just says, you know what? The church basically needs to be full because we're having a wedding. And go get whoever. Since Israel don't want to do it, go to the Gentiles and speak this message and tell them I have it all ready for them. They just have to show up. And so they go and they find, all that will come to Him. Good means people that are that will benefit. Of course, evil has to do with sinners, or bad has to do with sinners. And often the Lord, that's what He does today. He goes out looking for the good and the bad. And maybe we're here today and you think you're bad and you can't be forgiven. It's not true. The Lord forgives everyone who calls upon Him for repentance. We all come to Him the same way, and that is through repentance. Maybe you think you're a good person and you're not really that bad. Well, you still need repentance and you still need salvation. And the Lord just desires to save those who come to recognize who they are. See, Romans chapter 3, verse 23, it says to us, All, how much is all? All. All is all. The Greek word for all is all. All have sinned. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. All have sinned. In other words, there's no person on earth who has never sinned other than Jesus Christ as human. Everyone has sinned in some way. We're born into sin. As parents, we know it starts early. They've watched us as babies throw a fit, hit another child, do something at the age of 1 and 2. Why? Because we are sinners by nature. And it's revealed all the time who we are. See, but we can be forgiven. That's what the Lord does. He comes to forgive. And so he says, go get them. Go get whoever's out there. Whoever will respond, bring them to the wedding feast. By the way, that's what we're waiting for right now. We're waiting to be taken to the wedding feast. When the rapture comes, we will be taken up and we'll be at the wedding feast in heaven. He said in verse 11, but when the king came to see the guest, he saw a man there, you should underline this, who did not have a wedding garment. He didn't have the right clothes on. See, in the Jewish wedding that we're talking about here, especially a royal wedding, you had to come in formal dress. You had to come with the dress of royalty, or at least, dressed up. And it was considered a wedding garment. It was a garment that revealed it was to be a wedding. That's what the idea is here. Now, what is this garment that we're talking about? Jewish traditions always had these wedding garments. The wedding garment is a picture of the righteousness of Jesus Christ that we have when we become born again and confess our sins and accept them into our hearts. Once we have this wedding garment on it, we are right for the wedding. But see, this guy didn't have the wedding garment in. What did he do? He came with his own clothes. Clothes that did not reveal that he was supposed to be at this wedding. Why? Because he came in his own way. And there are many people who think they can get to heaven by their own conduct, by their own righteousness. Isaiah 61:10, it says this when he wrote, I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God, for he has clothed me with the garment of salvation. He has covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decks himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorns herself with jewels. In other words, he has the proper clothing. Isaiah speaks about being properly dressed for the wedding. And we know that the righteousness that we're speaking about here is the righteousness of Jesus Christ. None of us can be righteous in and of ourselves. We are righteous because of Jesus Christ in our lives. And when people say, you think you're righteous, huh? You said, I am righteous. I'm righteous in Jesus Christ. I'm not righteous in me. I'm a sinner by nature, saved by grace. But the robe I put on, the righteousness, it comes from Jesus Christ. He clothes me in that righteousness. I am right because of him. I am forgiven because of him. Now I have the righteousness of Christ in me. When God looks at me, he sees me in the righteousness. He sees you in the righteousness of Jesus Christ because he looks through Jesus to see you. If you repented, he doesn't see the sinner. He now sees the righteousness of Christ in you. And that's the only way that you can get to the Father is through the righteousness of Jesus Christ. I don't think I wrote this verse down, but I think it's 1 Timothy somewhere. It says that there's only one way between God and man, and that is the man, Jesus Christ. There's only one way. It's only through Jesus Christ. There is no other way. This guy was standing there. The king looks over and says, what's this guy doing here? He's not properly dressed, so he must have figured out a way to try to sneak in here. Now, of course, in heaven, you can't sneak into heaven. It's impossible. But again, it's an earthly truth trying to bring us the spiritual truth. And he said to him, friend, how did you come in here without a wedding garment? And he was speechless. He was caught. Like, I'm busted. I'm busted. How did I get in here? He wasn't clothed with the wedding garment. He didn't have the righteousness of Christ in him. He was without that in his life because he didn't come the right way. And there are many trying to get to heaven, but it's the wrong way. See, they're trying to do it in their own rights. They're trying to knock on doors and get people to know Jesus, but they don't even know the real Jesus. They're doing good efforts. They're doing many works for heaven. And some teachers teach that by works. Ephesians says you can't do it by works. You come to Jesus by faith and faith alone. But there are people who are trying to do this. This guy, apparently, he thought he could get in it by his own merits, by his own efforts. The problem is the Bible is clear that if we try to do it in our own righteousness, the Lord doesn't see them as our, when he sees our righteousness, he sees them as filthy rags. Isaiah 64:4 says, but we are all like unclean thing, and all of our righteousness are like filthy rags. Whatever you and I can offer to the Lord, present to the Lord, whatever we can claim that we did in a good way, Isaiah says, whatever you do, the Lord sees it as filthy rags. It's still dirty. Why? Because it's done by me. Now, before I'm saved, I'm a sinner, practicing sin. The better way to put it. And no matter what I do, I still have sin in me that I'm practicing because I've never repented of it. So everything I do, he says, it's like filthy rags. Why? Because God is a holy God. He's pure. The smallest speck upon God is highlighted because God is so pure you can see the minutest little thing that's not pure in Him. So whatever we do, even though it might be minute, it's still revealed as not pure. So he says everything we do and all our righteousness is like filthy rags unto the Lord. Then the king said to the servant, bind him hand and foot, take him away and cast him into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Anyone who tries to come in and crash this wedding on their own righteousness, by their own deeds, by their own ability, and not have on the righteousness of Christ, he says what he's going to do to them, he's going to bind them hand and foot and have them taken away. And where are they going? He said they're going to be cast into outer darkness. Hand and foot, kind of interesting. The hand, of course, the things we do with our hands, all the efforts we make, we've done by our hand. The foot is the way we walk, the things we're involved with. But he says you're going to bind them hand and foot, and we're going to cast them into outer darkness. Outer darkness is for all eternity. Outer darkness is the absence of God in darkness. That's why it's dark, because God is light. 1 John 1:5 tells us God is light. When God withdraws himself, all that's left is darkness. There is nothing else. I couldn't find it this time, but years ago when I was teaching the drug and alcohol class, when I was researching outer darkness, and I think I told you last week there's 167 verses on darkness. There's like 4 or 5 on outer darkness. One of the definitions I read, you have to really think about this. If you have darkness and outer darkness, the definition was outer darkness, and this is kind of weird, is the shadow of darkness. How many of you seen your shadow? Not everybody, right? The shadow is like a silhouette of darkness of who you are from the sun. The sun We're blocking the sun, and then there's a shadow. You got to think of already being dark, and there's a shadow of dark. That's what, I mean, it's super dark. It's super dark. It's so dark you can't see anything. There's no light at all, period. And it's a darkness because God is not in that part. They say, I forget how many millions of billions of miles the atmosphere is, but there's a point of cutoff where the stars are no longer visible, the galaxies are no longer visible, but when you get to the end, it's just black. And it's almost like the Lord saying, I'm going to cast them so far away, there's nothing out there. It's just black. We've all seen space movies. You know, I grew up with Star Trek and different shows, Lost in Space, probably before Star Trek. How many remember Lost in Space? A few of us older people do. You know, we Lost in Space, Star Trek, and then you have all the other stuff with Star Wars and all these things, and from time to time they go out into darkness, but whenever there's stars, there's still light. This is nothing. This is total blackness. And he says, we're going to cast them into outer darkness. Now, Jesus is called light also. And when he's not there, that's all there is darkness. Most Bible scholars agree in the phrase into outer darkness refers to hell or the lake of fire. This verse talks about outer darkness. Matthew 25:30 talks about outer darkness. And in Matthew 8:12 it says this, but the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Same as this verse says. Weeping and gnashing of teeth. Weeping describes the inner turmoil of pain, inside. You could say a spiritual, inner pain. Something from deep within. How many of you ever felt yourself crying from within? From within, you know that it's an inside pain. That's where weeping comes from something internally that's affected you so bad, it comes out. A lot of times you start to hiccup and you know your body just aches and you're pain because it's so deep. Weeping, he says, there will be weeping in outer darkness. There will also be gnashing of teeth. This describes the outward pressures of the body in pain. The gnashing of teeth is you're gritting because outside you're in turmoil. Outside there's something going on. So it's talking about both inner and outer pressures. Inner and outer agony, inner and outer the sensation or feeling of pain because you're in outer darkness. He said that's what outer darkness brings. It brings about weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's a serious thing, this outer darkness. Not something to be fooled with or played with. It's something that we must understand to understand it, specifically where those who reject Jesus Christ are going to be. It's not as easy as saying, go to hell. It's not that easy. Because hell is temporary. Hell, the Bible says, will be poured into the lake of fire. I read an article, the hotter the fire, the clearer the flame. You don't even see the color anymore. The hotter the fire, the clearer the flame. And when we light a match, we see the yellow, and maybe you can get a torch and see the blue. But this is saying it gets so clear it becomes invisible. Can't see it. Lake of fire is that place of turmoil and pain and weeping and gnashing of teeth. And so outer darkness is not a place to be messing around with. It's a place I think we should understand because it's a place of spiritual agony and physical pain. That's what it is. Are you scared about it? I hope you are. Because these verses help you say, that's why I'm not going to do that. That's why I'm not going to practice these things in my life. I'm not taking the chance of somehow turning from the Lord and going back into my sin. It ought to be also the compassion within your heart to say, I have to share this with a lost sinner. I have to get them to understand where they're headed. It ought to make us grieve for people that we know and talk to. It ought to make us pray for people we can't talk to. It ought to put us on our knees and say, I need to pray for my brother more. I need to pray for my aunt more. I need to pray for my coworker more. I need to pray for my friend more. I need to pray for that guy I don't even. When you understand outer darkness, it'll change everything. It'll bring forgiveness in your heart. It'll change who you are. You know, the guy that stabbed me and I was pronounced dead from this guy, I hated this guy. But when I got saved, one of the first things the Lord did was to give me compassion for him. I started praying for him. And I really sincerely had given him over to the Lord, because before that, the reason why I carried a gun wasn't because I was a hoodlum. It was because I was going to kill this guy whenever I saw him. And he was from my neighborhood. And I started packing that day after I got stabbed. After I got stabbed and I got healed and everything came back, I bought me a gun. And I had it with me in my car. 24 hours a day, I had that gun with me. Just waiting for him. And he never came back to the neighborhood, because he knew I was going to shoot him when I saw him. But yet I got saved. And I'll never forget. When I got saved, I was facing the 22 spoons of heroin for sales to go to prison. And when I got turned in, you guys know my story, part of it. Before I got sentenced, I had gotten saved, and so the Lord spared me. He gave me a year in the county jail. And when I went in to turn myself in, when I get into the cell, the next morning I wake up and guess who's next to me in the cell? The guy that stabbed me. The guy that brought all kinds of emotions from my family and friends. Mom thinking I was dead. My friends didn't understand what was going on, and it's a deep story, but there he was next to me. I had no ill feelings for him. Shared the Lord Jesus did in my life. Because that's what happens when the Lord enters you. He fills you with unbelievable compassion, unbelievable mercy for other people. He changes your life. He changes your. See, when you understand outer darkness and you understand what's involved with agony, it's very hard to hold that against someone. Very, very hard. We should have compassion for people. I know it's hard. I know it can be a difficult thing to let go, but you know, the old saying is so true. Hate the sin, love the sinner. Hate the sin, love the sinner. It's a phrase that we need to learn. I don't like that you're a drug addict. I don't like that you're homosexual. I don't like that you kill people. I don't like that you hurt me and you did it. But I love you because you're a sinner going to hell, going to outer darkness. I have to love the sinner, hate the sin. You know how I learned that? My own dad. My own dad, I had to learn to love him and hate the sin. Because I grew up with a father who was a drug dealer. My whole life, that's what he was. I didn't know him as a normal man. How he came up here to live with us, and he became normal. Other than that, it was always violence and drugs. When I got saved, I had to learn to separate him in the sin. And God used that, but that great lesson helped me for everyone. Because when I look at people, I have to remember they're lost sinners and they're heading to this lake of fire. They're heading to this outer darkness. And if I have any compassion in me, if I am Christ-like, then I should be praying for them. I should be talking to them. I should be living it before them. There are many ways I can reveal the truth of Jesus Christ in a person's life. And whatever God shows me is what I try to do. I hope that's what you try to do. Because He has a plan for people's lives. And then He ends here, and I'm going to stop at verse 14. It says, "For many are called, but few are chosen. Many are invited, but only few are chosen." The Greek word for "are" here, it's added to help us understand. But if you read it this way, "but few chosen," the actual word for chosen means they choose. So many are called, there's all invited, but only a few respond. Only a few will make the right choice. And so the Lord says, you know what, I've invited people and they've rejected me. And the reason is because everybody's invited, but only a few will respond. And that's true. The majority of humanity will not respond to the love of God through Jesus Christ. They will continue to reject that. They make a choice to reject it. That's why I said that we're too busy. I don't have time for this in my life. It's up to each of us to make that right choice of accepting Jesus. Our choice reveals whether we're coming to that wedding or we're not, whether we're wearing the garments of righteousness or we're not. We can't do it in our own strength. Isaiah 61:10, he wrote, "I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God." I read this earlier. "For He has clothed me with the garment of salvation. He has covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decks himself with ornaments, and as a bride herself with jewels." See, God clothes us through Jesus to be at this wedding. We are invited, many are called, but only a few will make the right choice. The question is, are you trusting Jesus Christ and His righteousness in your life to attend the wedding? Or do you still think you have something to offer? I know I don't. I have absolutely nothing to offer. Nothing. I hope you and I are dressed in the righteousness of Jesus Christ. For Jesus paid that we would gain heaven. His sacrifice was so that you and I, clothed in His righteousness, once again be in the presence of the Father for all eternity. See, the opposite of the outer darkness is the light of Jesus Christ. God's presence with us for eternity. For the lost sinner, there is no presence of God whatsoever. That's why. Because the absence of light is darkness. Those are the two choices that people have to make. Those are the two locations, you might say, that every one of your family members, every one of your friends, every one of your co-workers, every stranger you meet on the street, anybody you've ever known or seen has these two locations to go to. We are called to go out and invite people to come to the wedding. We have to be clothed in Jesus Christ. Father,